Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to the 2021 Line of Scrimmage Officials Camp, our virtual camp, where we want to talk to you all as trainers and evaluators about some things around the line of scrimmage. This year, we haven't done anything new. We didn't ask Joe to add anything to the mechanics manual. And what we're going to do is just walk through this so that we're all on the same page, because we know some of you do not work the line of scrimmage. And if you're going to be evaluators, and if you're leading some of your training sessions, we just want to make sure we're all on the same page with some of the things. So I'm Kenny Simon in the Atlanta Quarterback Club. I'll let David and Drew introduce themselves.
My name is David Reynolds, GFOA.
Andrew Scotchless, retired from Atlanta area football officials, and now I am working in the MEAC.
And Drew gets a car because he, for some reason, is obsessed with taking this call from the car, even though he's not in the car. So he has a little red car on the slide there. If you could, make sure you're staying on mute unless you have a question. What we'll do is the three of us, we'll all talk a little bit, try to mix up the voices you hear, offer different perspectives. If you have a question, feel free to unmute yourself and ask the question, but after the question is answered, please go back on mute. If you want, we'll also try to monitor the chat. So if Drew's talking or David's talking, I'll be peeking into the chat to try to answer any questions you have there. So we want to make sure you all leave here with all of your questions answered. For you experienced line of scrimmage officials, this will be nothing new for you today. But we just want to make sure that as trainers across the state and as evaluators, that we're all on the same page on what we're looking at when we're evaluating line of scrimmage officials. So with that, we'll jump into today's agenda. So we'll start off with a little bit of, there are a couple of things we want to emphasize from the line of scrimmage official, from the line of scrimmage position rather. So we'll talk about that and a new rule. You all have seen a lot of this, but we want to talk about it from our perspective on the line of scrimmage. We'll talk a little bit about line of scrimmage mechanics in general. So what is it, what do good line of scrimmage mechanics look like? So overall, some things to think about. And then we're just going to walk through pregame, talk about the importance of that, free kicks, proper mechanics, and the philosophies around these things. And then what I like to call 80-20 mechanics. So the majority of the game we know is played between the 25s. And what we want to do is talk a little bit about, go into a little bit of detail on the mechanics that make up the plays that consume the majority of the game. We're going to talk about run and pass, okay? And we'll talk a little bit about punts and scoring, talk about goal line, and then we'll answer it. We'll open up the line for additional questions that you may not get answered as we go through. But if you are not clear on something that you see on a slide, I need you to come off of mute or ping something into the chat to make sure we're all clear, right? So let's jump in. David, if you could take us through these first few slides, I'd appreciate that, sir.
Yeah, hey, good evening. We all got this point of emphasis from Kevin already. And so we know that we have a little more backing from the Georgia high school as far as sideline behavior from assistant coaches primarily. You can read, and you've already talked about this in the umpire session and the referee session. One thing I want to make sure we're on the same page about, we still want to talk to people on the sideline, because a good sideline rapport is very important in game management. So don't, if a coach in the right time, place, and manner wants to ask you a question, don't be afraid to answer that question. Don't say, I'm only going to talk to head coaches. Still have that personality that's going to allow you to behave and promote good professionalism on the sideline. But again, if it's getting out of hand, it's very important that we do have our protocol in place to go ahead and pop a UNS and the head coach. Now, before I would do that, again, your association might have their own take on this. Might not be a bad idea to before you throw a flag for the assistant coach on the head coach, go talk to the head coach, say, hey, I'm having a problem with your OC. You need to handle this before we do, or get your referee involved. But we, as much as we want to make sure we have a safe sideline and good behavior on the sideline, let's make sure we're not just completely flag happy and all the above. Again, talk to coaches, but don't take crap from assistant coaches. All right, and so kind of adding on here a little bit of a silent etiquette, we got to get out of the white. That's nothing new. The coaches have to be out of the restricted zone. They got to be out of the white. Let's make sure we do that. Again, we have our violation here. It was the first warning, and then we go straight into the 15 yards UNS again back on the head coach. So for both of these, as much preventive officiating we can, the better off we'll be with that. One thing I'm going to add about this from a film evaluation process, if our wing official if we're in the red zone, we're snapping inside the red zone going in, and our wing official after the snap is looking back to the team box, that's not what we need to be looking in that moment. I understand if we have a change of possession that we're in a bad spot in a quick hurry, but let's make sure we're getting the things, especially the live ball fouls with all of that. Don't be scared to get your deep wing to help you with this. I know in my career, that's kind of how we roll. So I would advocate your side judge, field judge getting down on sideline stuff. So here's two kind of pieces that from a Kevin Giddens 2021 piece pertain to the wings.
And just one little call out. It is not warning 5 yards and then 15 yards. It is warning and 15 yards, right? So obviously we had to step up sort of, the penalties around this, because we do have coaches taking advantage of this, and we see it when we review film from the first round all the way to the state championship. So we got to clean this up.
My bad. One more thing for 2021 low blocks. Unfortunately, Rob Underwood did a nice job on this already. So I'm not going to add too much on this, but in case you missed that piece, we're taking the formation out of it as far as a low block in the free zone. And so the key word here is immediate. If our 5 interior linemen who were in the free blocking zone at the snap block somebody in the zone, they go low immediately, so less than 2 steps. You can read the rule from Kevin. But I want to show this here, right? So the left tackle, who can he get? Well, the D end on the defensive right end. I'm on the right side of my screen. We cannot. There you go. We cannot block him low. 1, he's already out of the free blocking zone, and then 2, that'd be more than 2 steps. That'd be a big no-no. The left offensive guard can definitely grab this D tackle because he's head up, and the center can probably grab him pretty easily because they're head up. The right guard for sure can grab this D tackle. And then even this guy, the left D end, as long as a piece of them is in the box, we're going to put them in the box, and the free blocking zone, we can block them low. Again, so from the end, from the line of scrimmage, what we're looking for there is if they rock back at all, they go backwards at all, and then low, then we definitely have an illegal block below the waist. If they fire out immediately, even in the shotgun formation, that's the difference here. Then we will allow that to happen. I know we have keys and we get on the wide receivers pretty quickly. Let's make sure, as far as the line of scrimmage guys and gals, that we are helping with that tackle for sure with this new rule change.
All right.
Hey, so one thing to really reiterate on that is the old rule used to say basically shotgun formation, that the lineman had to be in a 3-point stance to fire out immediately. The change now is basically if they're in a 2-point stance, it has to be immediate as well. So that's a change that we're seeing as well that you guys need to make sure to reiterate. Before 3-point stance, now it has to be no backward step, fire straight out in a 2-point stance is also okay now. See, there was a question.
Yeah, it was about listen, on these sideline warnings, preventative officiating, right? We don't want a whole bunch of 15-yard UNSs on coaches. So use your mouth, be confident, talk to these coaches, get out of the white, right? And so, let's use some common sense with that flag, right?
All right, so talking about what we want to see. So when you guys are going out there and we're looking at video, we can't really tell what your emotions may be, but your body language says a lot, right? So when you're looking at this and looking at the title saying look good and confident, we're kind of listing some ways that we can help you guys look good and confident in what we're looking for to also see that. So there's a big difference. Everybody says you got to hustle, right? Hustle on the field, hustle off the field. Well, there's a fine line of over hustling, all right? And that's where people talk about now you're hurrying. So when you're moving, you should be moving with purpose. You should make sure that you're getting a proper distance, because if you hustle up to that spot too quickly, next thing you know, you could be taken out of a play, not to mention you can miss important stuff in that play. So make sure that you guys are moving with purpose. You're making sure that every movement you have is an important step. We want to see that you guys are relaxed. All right. I don't know if you could actually be too relaxed or not. I know that we've had people say that this crew looked, maybe they were too relaxed. Well, that looks very confident on film in my eyes. So when you guys are reading and reacting, make sure that you guys are moving again with that purpose. Every mechanic you go through, it should be, especially goal line situations. When we have pass situations, we need to read the plays and then react accordingly. If we're in a situation where we have a first down to gain in a goal line, we need to be reading and reacting to that. We want to also, as line of scrimmage officials, make sure that we're getting all pre-snap fouls. All right. You want to be able to score out at 100% when it comes down to the false starts, the encroachments, shifts, and motions. All right. Clean formations. You guys have heard it year after year after year here. All right. You guys can do a lot of preventive officiating before the game ever starts to clean up formations so we're not having to throw too many fouls. All right. You guys, please work before the game to get this stuff taken care of, because you've heard it over and over. What's the back? What's a back? What's a lineman? Get it cleaned up before the game ever starts. We want to make sure that we're calling impactful fouls. All right. There's a gray area in officiating, and we have to look for the ones that are the big ones, the train wrecks. All right. If you miss a foul that's borderline, people can live with that. If you're calling a foul that's not there, you can't have that flag back. So 100% on the pre-snap, but judgment-wise, going through a ticky-tacky hold or something, you may want to leave that alone. A little rule of thumb, say to yourself before you throw that foul, say to yourself 2 times, that's a foul before you throw your flag. It gives you a little bit of processing time to make sure that you guys are thinking about and seeing if it's impactful to the play. The next thing we're going to go to is their pregame stuff.
Yeah, I wanted to emphasize one thing, Drew. When we say dominate 100% of the pre-snap sort of stuff, like line of scrimmage officials, like all of the things that pertain to the line of scrimmage pre-snap, we should be 100% on that stuff, right? Some of the other things like holding, some things that may require more judgment, I get it, right? But this stuff, pre-snap, line of scrimmage, clean line of scrimmage, formations looking good, like we got to get that, right? So just wanted to reemphasize that. And then real quick, pregame. So listen, I don't care how long you've been at it. I don't think anyone's better than, participating in a pregame. Now, it may happen in the locker room before the game. It may happen on a phone call, before the game, depending on what we're doing in terms of social distancing. But I think there are a couple of things that need to happen. You need to be talking about, the basics and mechanics and a whole lot of other things with not only your cross-field partner. So I talk to the other wing. I'm also talking to my sideline partner, right? The deep guy on my side. So I think you should talk through, no matter how routine or how many times you've read the mechanics, basic mechanics, penalty administration and reporting fouls, spots, cross-field mechanics, catch, no catch. And there's some team-specific information that I like to discuss, just because teams have tendencies, right? They may have star players and the other team may not, or there may be some interesting things. The teams may have a history with each other, so things get rowdy, right? Many things. What happens if we get a rain out? And also talk to your electronic clock operator and your play clock operator. Do not omit them from the pregame, and talk about overtime, and how that works. And then once you're out on the field, you're out of the locker room now, you all are getting closer to game time, take some mental snaps while the teams warm up. We say this, but a lot of times we end up sort of going through our little routine, and then we're just sort of chilling in different parts of the field, just talking, right? Get your tackle and your tight end numbers, look at the formations and the personnel they're bringing in. Sometimes with these formations, you can eliminate a lot of it when you're watching them as they're running through plays before the game. And then I also like to look at the ability of my quarterback and the kicker. Does this guy have an arm? Can the kicker kick far? Are they probably not going to be kicking? So let's just make sure we're doing pregame and we're not skipping that. And then I think there's some things in the chat. Let's make sure we answer those before we move forward. What is your philosophy on? You got it,
add
Drew?
to kind of what you're saying, Kenny. Yeah, I responded to the guy's question. I was told by somebody who's actually on this call is that we're not good enough to make those ultra slow motion calls. Okay. And that's the truth. All right. We, if you got to think that it's going to be where, it's tight like that, most likely that ball has been already moved by the time that guy's moving. So that's a great question. Kenny, what I wanted to add, you were talking about team specific information. And when we were kind of prepping for this, we talked about overall just football and things that we see on film. You mentioned that already, but a good example that I learned a couple years ago from hearing some guys, but there's a guy that played for the Saints. He played center. His name was Max Unger. And he had a weird routine that he did every single time. Basically, Max would bob his head once and then twice, and then he would go and snap the ball. Now, everybody that was studying the game beforehand, they looked at that and they said, that's the normal routine, right? I don't need all that who dat stuff. We are in Atlanta here. So that is the normal routine of him. So we're looking for stuff like that. We're looking for, does a team do something out of the ordinary on fourth down, right? Prep us for that so that we were ready for it. Or is that just all about what they do on a normal basis? So looking for some more of those tendencies as you guys go through. David and I, we actually had a game last Friday night. We talked for an hour beforehand just to get ready for what we were doing cross field with each other. All right. It is very important that you guys are on point, because where we see that really come to a head is with cross field mechanics. All right. I mean, I go and I'm on the near side and the guy gets blown up to me. I need to have that guy across the field giving me that spot of forward progress. I come up and I'm looking and I got nothing. Now I'm guessing. So make sure you guys have that communication. Is really important. It's going to make you guys look really smooth as a crew when you guys are nailing that stuff.
Yep. All right, Drew. Thanks for that. All right, let's get into the fun stuff, David.
No meets leather. Here we go. Okay. This diagram is nothing new. What we're going to see in this diagram is the wings on the goal line. And that's what I would recommend to the whole group. But the mechanics manual does allow us to be on the 10-yard line for a free kick. Again, I would recommend strongly that we have our wings on the goal lines, easier to come up and backward. So anyway, so what are some concerns that we see the past couple of years on free kicks? Wings staying on the goal line longer would be a big help. Stay on the goal line to your threat. The goal line is no longer threatened. So let the receiver catch the ball, possess the kick, get up the field, let him get 10, 15, and then let's start going to work from there. I think it's important that, if he goes 2 yards up the field and then goes completely lateral, now we've gone past the play, and that's kind of a challenge there. The mechanics manual says to wind the clock when the ball is legally touched in your area. As we see on the diagram to the right side of the screen, divide the field into thirds. That does shift depending on the direction of the kick, obviously, and the direction of the 22 players. So although that's nice and pretty, right down the hashes for the referee and the two wings to have their thirds, we know that if the ball's kicked towards the head line judge per se, that those zones might shift where the line judge is kind of reaching per se into the middle of the field, and that's fine too. All right. So again, depending on, go ahead, Kenny. Depending on how the kick goes, again, we might have all that. So then the last thought on kickoffs, and this pertains to a lot of plays, but especially kickoffs. Don't stay on double teams too long. Why is that? We're not going to call a hold on double team because they're already engaged. We're not going to have a block in the back or a blindside block. So if you're in your zone, if you do have a double team, we can start kind of browsing for another threat, another block and action that might help us pick up something. Here's a picture. We're not going to show film tonight. No offense to Drew's bandwidth, but it's terrible. So we're not going to try tonight on the Zoom. We will show film when we get in person in the camps. We'll see the arrow here, the red arrow drawn by Kenny very terribly, where we have a block in the back at the 15-yard line and about the middle of the field. And the head line judge in this play is going to have the flag. It's the correct call. He's the only person that has the flag on the field. And that's just kind of an illustration very quickly to see how zones can shift. Talk about double teams, the bottom of your screen. Maybe your line judge is watching that. Again, we can probably come off that a little bit and pick up something else. This might be the referee's kitchen, but again, based on, I know it's just one picture, not the actual whole play. The headline judge doesn't have a whole lot else to be looking at based on when players go. So a quick picture of what we'll see in camp about how our keys and our zones shift on free kicks. So that's free kicks. Stay on the goal line longer. If the ball's on the line of on the goal line, yeah, work with your referee on, is the ball possessed in the field of play versus in the end zone. But as far as on the film and the PEB, yeah, wind the clock when the ball's in your area code.
All right. Thank you, David. I got a ping. Someone asked, could they get these slides? So James, we can figure out how we can PDF these and send them. I don't mind. I mean, we're going to show a lot of this in camp too, but of course, along with video from a line of scrimmage perspective, but I'd rather you all have it and be looking at it to say, this is what they talked about in the virtual session. So I'll work with James to see like timing on when he might want to send this out, or if he doesn't, James can be funny like that. It's not me, it's him.
Thanks. Yeah, well, this is being recorded, so this will be on the
it's all out there.
It'll be on the YouTube page.
Yeah, hey, this is Dan with Columbus. So at a minimum, do the trainers for each association have a slide?
So did Dan ask if at a minimum could the trainers have the slides?
Yeah, so after we get all this done this week, we'll have them on the GHSA training website. Yep. All the presentations will be on there. We'll just get you to send it to Clifton. He'll put a link to it, or he'll put it on that website.
That's it. All right. Thanks, James. All right, going to the next one. So look, there are some things that I think we, just from how you think about mechanics and what you do on the line of scrimmage in general, I just think there's some things that we need to get right. And most of them have to do with that 80-20, the 80% of the things that happen quite a bit. This is not going to be rocket science, but it's amazing how even experienced officials, we lack in some of these things. We get a little bit lazy in some of them. So we just want to talk about these a little bit. First of all, like we should never see you officiating air, right? Find a threat somewhere in your area, in your zone, and officiate that, right? So we don't officiate air. And then we want you to read and then react. No happy feet. So on the snap, you stand still. You are reading the play and then you react. We think it's important for you to have a pre-snap routine and just get in the habit of that and processing everything, right? With status of the clock, what's the down and distance, all these other things. And then preset snap signals. We don't have a lot of them, but on film, we're still seeing people giving the balanced signals, right? We're still seeing that. We should not be seeing that. We don't do that anymore, right? We look in the backfield to see if there are too many in the backfield. They got 5 numbered properly on the line of scrimmage. We're good. All we are doing is punching back based on, where the man closest to me is on or off, right? So, but pre-snap signals, I know every now and then we see some people doing some other things, tapping the hat or something. If somebody's covered up, you won't get dinged for that. That's okay. But we shouldn't be doing balanced things. And then listen, spots, we need you to get the right spot at the right time, and getting accurate spots definitely separate people on film when we're watching a lot of line of scrimmage film. Square in, don't be sloppy, don't round it off. That separates you as well. If you're neck and neck with another official or another crew that we're evaluating, and we got a line of scrimmage guy that is squaring in and looking smooth, and you're rounding off all of your movements, it looks different on film, right? So we want you squaring in. Of course, we know the line to gain and the goal line are huge. So in those situations, we want you pinching in hard. And then dead ball signal. Only the covering official should really be given the dead ball signal. We see a lot of folks probably, I don't know if they're echoing it or not, but the closest official to the play, the ball is dead, probably sees it. And sometimes, it's in between a couple of officials, but we shouldn't see 4 or 5 people giving the dead ball signal. And then, are you spotting this ball on a tick or a big line when you can, right? Like having, 1st and 10 from the 37.5-yard line is not cool, right? And if you're close to a big line, I'd rather you put it on a big line. So let's just think about little things like that, little common sense things, right? And then the pass, all right? Is the pass beyond or behind the line of scrimmage? That's important to know. Sometimes we get flagged from the deeps on certain things, and we need to be able to communicate. Nope, that was caught behind the line of scrimmage. Line judge, you punch back on all backwards passes, right? Now, I do have a preference that you punch forward on passes behind the line of scrimmage, but if you do not do that, you won't be dinged on film. So if we're evaluating, we don't see someone punch forward, we're not dinging them. But my thinking behind this is you should get in the habit of reading pass behind the line of scrimmage and indicating whether it's forward or backwards. The mechanics manual will only talk about backwards, but I'd like for you to punch forward as well. But again, you won't be dinged if you don't do that. And then you need to know your keys, or what I like to call sometimes initial responsibilities, because we know we move from keys to zone relatively quickly. And then where is your head looking? I know we use our eyes as well, but sometimes, you know, on film, you know, you can tell what an official's thinking about based on where his head is and the direction that he or she is looking. And we need you to get into your book and make sure we're not going to go over keys, right? But we want to make sure as trainers in your associations, you're talking to people about the keys, especially in your 7-man mechanics as we're preparing for playoffs later in the season. So these are the things that mechanically, like if we get these things right and we do some of those other things, you know, like looking relaxed and going through a pre-snap routine, you look pretty good on film doing this. I know nothing about your judgment on film unless you throw a crazy flag, right? But if you do these things, you look pretty good.
Hey, Kenny, let me add one thing here. As far
Yes,
as
sir.
punching forward, those are only passes that are caught behind the line of scrimmage, right? So we don't need a pass that's thrown 10 yards down the field and the line judge is punching forward. So I want to clarify that a little bit. Also, as a PEB member personally, David Reynolds on the record, if the headline judge is punching, I'm going to ding the headline judge. Okay, so if your association wants the headline judge to punch, personally, that is not the mechanics manual. And so I have grounds for a ding on that. So please make sure we're doing, I know it's a long reach for certain plays for line judge to punch, but that's the mechanics manual. And let's go to work from there. And then one more thought on keys. We're not going to show pictures of it for everybody. Let's make sure that members of the PEB specifically, if you don't know who should be looking where, it's important for you to read those graphics so you know who's looking where. And that way you can ding the correct person like Kenny's talking about, and you can put the score in the correct aspect that we'll show later on for each key, for each aspect, excuse me.
So a couple things. One, go ahead, James.
No, that's true. I want to add real quick. So Kenny talked about only the official covering, right? That is very important. We don't need to see 4 people. We don't need to see the one covering official be wrong and then 3 more people be wrong. But the clock is everyone's responsibility on that crew. Yep. And if you are the opposite side wing and you notice that clock operator has not stopped the clock, you better go ahead and you better get that clock stopped. So that's where you're going to have a caveat where you're going to have another official making sure that they're aware of the clock. And that's a thing that we like to see. We like to see guys, that's kind of the type of things that get you to a 5, right? Hey, yep. Are they aware of the clock? You know? And then somebody asked a question about if the ball is close but beyond line of scrimmage, will be dinged if we are letting our deep know. So the main thing right there is you better know whether it's behind or beyond the line of scrimmage, because that impacts the play big time. So make sure you know.
Yeah.
I like communication, and if that's what you're doing communication wise, so be it.
Now there's one other caveat with the punching back. The only time I don't mind like a headline judge punching back, there's an option to your side, option play, right? That is the one time in the mechanics manual where they'll say, you know, if it's coming towards me, I get to punch, right? And the reason is because you have quarterbacks that are actually pretty smart. And a long time ago, 30 years ago, when I played quarterback on an option team and they didn't let us throw the ball except for maybe 2 times a game, I would pitch the ball forward to get passing stats. So we want you, headline judge, someone's running towards you, running the option. Sometimes that pitch relationship changes and that back will actually, they'll still be behind line of scrimmage. That back will get in front of that quarterback depending on what's happening. He might pitch it forward. We want you to punch that. That is the caveat. And it looks like someone asked a question.
Let me handle this one, Kenny.
You got it? Okay. We're gonna move on.
A quick pass toward the headline judge. So yes, we want it to be the line judge. And really what it comes down to is keys. Because in just a basic formation, you got a double-double, right? In a double-double, the headline judge is going to have the number 2. If that number 2 is pressed, he may not be in a situation to be able to make an accurate ruling. Where in the double-double, a line judge is already looking in the backfield. He's taking his tackle, looking in the backfield at that back because that's his pass key. So where keys take us, they take us into that backfield already, allowing us to go ahead and get a better view. And line judge, if you need to at times, and you got to take a couple steps back to get a view of that, do that, all right? Because that's a purposeful movement.
Yeah, that's a good point too, Drew. Like, we don't need to be dinging people that are trying to get into the right position to see what they need to see, right? It's a mobile box concept. And if someone needs to do a movement that isn't specifically called out in the manual, we purposely took that type of language out anyway. But if someone does something where they're moving to get a better view of something or get out of the way, like, we're not dinging people for that. And who's that? Who's annotating on my slides? I saw Willie Brown.
Keep going. I'll fix that. Keep going.
You got it? All right. All right, Drew, let's talk through this impactful versus nitpicky concept. You're muted.
I was on a roll there too. All right, so impact versus nitpicky. Somebody already asked a question, right? It was a good question, and I had a feeling that would come up. If you have to slow down frame by frame to see it's a false start, we don't want that call, okay? Again, most likely that ball, that center's priority starting to snap the ball. Let's leave that alone. That's nitpicky. All right, formations. Again, talked about that. Please just clean it up. All right, clean it up in the game. It's going to be an issue if we see it going on and on and on and on and getting worse as the game goes on, and we haven't seen on the foul report that there's been a foul or that you've allowed it to get worse as the game goes on. That's an issue. All right, that's going to be something that we're going to get nitpicky on because you didn't do enough preventive officiating. Guys, just remember too, and this is for evaluators that are on the call, please make sure that you guys do actually consider the camera angle. All right. If the ball's between the 20, it's at the 20-yard line, that's going to push that, lineman one way or the other. It may put him on, it may put him off. Holds, and this really goes for all holds, kickoffs especially, punt plays especially, we want them to be point of attack. And if they're away from the ball, the only time we want ones that are called from away from the ball are going to be spin arounds and takedowns. All right. A regular hold on the opposite side of the field still allows a player to come back into the play. A takedown does not. Some of these kids, we're in the state of Georgia. We have some of the best athletes in the game. I think Milton High School has like the top DN in the country right now. All right. There's very athletic kids that can definitely get back into the play on a little minor hold. Penalty enforcement, we really do want to see you guys doing a better job with this. And it starts off with the umpire and the head line judge and the line judge all communicating 1, 2, 3, right? 5, 10, 15. And then they got the umpire and headline judge walking it off. The line judge is your last checkoff. All right. Looking at the chains, he needs to make sure that the umpire and the headline judge have both walked the appropriate yardage before he starts his ascend downfield as well. There may be some times where somebody, and David, come talk right after this point, because you have to make a great point about this. There may be some times where that headline judge could get caught up in something. What we need to have is we need to still have 3 checks. All right. So if somehow that mechanic gets altered a little bit, then we need to still see that the wing officials went through the proper checkpoints. We want to keep credibility, and we lose some credibility as soon as that umpire puts down that ball at 4 yards. David, go ahead and please add the important part that you want to talk about.
Yeah, so headline judges, again, you got a job to do. And if a coach is talking to you and needs an explanation, your job in that moment is to walk with the umpire. And I know some umpires are a lot quicker than others, and that's fine. And so we got to go. And so if a coach wants to talk to you, he wants to know exactly what happened in that exact moment. Tell him, coach, give me a second. I'll come right back to you, or follow me, whatever that works for you. But headline judges, your job in that moment is not to tell a coach what happened. Your job is to help that penalty enforcement there. Because like Drew said, if the umpire goes 4 yards, and we've all been with them before, it happens. It's not all the time, but that one time we put the ball down wrong and you're on film, we've got a big problem. And so walk through that process together. Line judges, if the headline judge is walking with the umpire like he's supposed to, then just hold off right where you're at, the spot of enforcement, and go to work from there. We want to move as fast as possible through penalty enforcement, but still be mechanically and by the rule book 100% correct. So and this is the way to do it.
Okay.
All right, so
Go ahead, Drew.
getting these 80-20s, right? Starting with the runs here. So we want to make sure that we're counting just the players in the backfield. All right. And we talk about signals. Now, there does not need to be unbalanced, balanced signals. We're punching off. We're punching off that outside receiver. There was some confusion, I think, when we moved to this, that people were saying, do we punch off, the inside slot guy who's off? No, we only punch off the outermost receiver. All right. That lets us know about how many players are in the backfield versus that are on the line. It's important that we have that communication, because we could have 3 in the backfield and have the rest of the team there, the rest of the 8 there on that line of scrimmage, and that's perfectly legal. Make sure that you guys are doing that communication. 2 fingers if you got 2 guys off on the outside, 3 if you got all 3 off. All right. Make sure that you guys are keeping a clean line of scrimmage. We're getting redundant with this. All right, over and over and over. But again, every year we got to cover this. We got people all over the place with the line of scrimmage stuff when it comes to actually making sure we have a clean line of scrimmage. Make sure that you guys are straddling the line of scrimmage. We really don't want to see the lean. You'll see some guys that sometimes will lean over. If you have to take a step, take a little step to give yourself that angle so you're not leaning. All right. If you like that NFL mechanic where you start low, that's fine. But just don't be leaning over, making it look like, hey, you're trying to make somebody legal. You go ahead and you take that step. We don't want to be nitpicky as well with the whole, encroachments and stuff like that. If a guy's outside, he's a wide 9 DN, and his helmet's right there on the ball, we're gonna let that slide the wider they are, and we're gonna do a lot of preventive officiating. We're gonna go in there. We're gonna say, hey, I need you to back up a little bit, right? It gets to be a problem. And this happened a few years ago where we had there was a game that was evaluating that ended up having 7 defensive encroachments just in the first half. We got to work to make sure that we don't have that. Those are things that slow down the ball game, that really make us show up too much in a ball game. If we can prevent, we prevent that stuff, guys. The last little point there on illegal formations, we should have 2 flags. All right. I know what I like to do when I see that I have an illegal formation. I'll tap my flag. I'll let my crossfield partner see that I'm tapping my flag, saying, hey, this flag's coming out. And sometimes that crossfield partner may get on the 0-2, get on the walking in. No, I got my guy on. We're good. We're good. Boom. All right. No foul. We're good. All right. Communication's key in that situation, specifically now that everybody's using the radios.
Yeah. So for formation awareness and tendencies, right? Knowing you're eligible is going to be a big part of this puzzle, right? Knowing the numbers, knowing who's eligible receivers by position and by number, who's covered up, all the above. That's going to help you catch ineligible downfields. Sometimes, even for me, I see a big number of 75 yards downfield, and I got to figure out where was the previous spot. Some of these pre-snap things, I'm thinking about them as soon as I see that 70 number running downfield. It's a flag on the ball thrown, and we're good to go. So some of that awareness things we're not looking for, cut blocks, we're not looking for things that teams like to do. But again, if I work Irwin County or St. Pius, I kind of know their formation, and I'm more keen to making sure that contact's where it's supposed to be, and I'm on that a little more. Situational awareness, again, it's going to help you be in the right spot at the right time. It's going to help you with sideline management, right? So number of timeouts, and so if we're inside of a minute or 2 of a half, and I know the offense is kind of in a critical play here. I'm listening out for that head coach's voice for a late timeout. As far as how far line to gain, down in distance, those things pre-snap, man, those are critical, right? Drew's already talked about clock status. That's the entire crew. And if we mess up a clock status, especially if we're on GPB, the whole world knows about it. So those kind of things kind of add to, even on run plays, right? A bunch of boxes to check here, but important pieces.
So you can see David and Drew are walking you through sort of like, it's almost a progression, right? Like after the ball is dead, now we've set the ball and we're just kind of walking through these things. These are all the things we want you processing pretty quickly. And then once the ball is live, you know what we say, we have the ball from the 2 to the 2, right? We have the spot from the 2 to the 2. So basic stuff. You want to watch the initial movement of the tackle, kind of gives away whether it's a run or a pass. And then you find the ball, right? Observe your threats and use your eyes. Your eyes move faster than your head. I know I hear some people say when I evaluate, I'm looking to see where his head was. And, and there's some validity to that. But you can also use your eyes to peek backwards before. I'd rather you do that than officiate air, right? So use your eyes, watch the action in front of and around the runner. And we want you to maintain sort of good angles, good cone of vision. Move the way you need to move to see what you need to see. Try not to get straight lines so you can have a good perspective on a lot of these, the blocks and the things happening around the runner. And then again, square in, don't get sloppy, and get your forward progress, right? Give the runner everything they earned, right? And then of course, we want to make sure we're getting good spots. So again, I mentioned this earlier, but this is that caveat to punching back. If there's an option play to your side, you can punch forward or backwards, right? So we want you to be aware of that. That is the only time that we will allow like a headline judge to punch, right? And so evaluators, you need to be aware of that and not just automatically ding someone because you see the guy standing on the chain punching, right? If it was an option play, it's fine. And then if you're on the backside of the play, be alert. Things can happen on the backside of the play. It could be safety related things. We want you to be aware, right? These are all the things we need to do. This happens this is the majority of your game when you're a line of scrimmage official. All this stuff right here, right? Especially with running teams. Now we'll talk a little bit about passing.
All right, so know your keys. Again, we're not going over keys, but there is several pages in the mechanics manual that gives you situations that you guys need to look at and make sure you go over. The headline judge, moving with keys, all right? Most of the time, probably on pass plays, 80 plus, I don't know, I'm throwing out a number. But most plays, you're gonna have a swinging back coming out of the backfield. You don't wanna be in a place headline judge where you're in front of that pass. The mobile box concept also applies to pass plays. So don't be too quick to move downfield. You do wanna make sure that you're moving with your keys. If your keys take you downfield, headline judge, then you go ahead and you saunter downfield. You are still responsible for that belt line across the field. So moving a few steps does help you get a better perspective of that. So threats, all right? So threats have to do really when it comes to everything, but when we're talking about passes, we're talking about those defensive backs that are usually playing a press coverage. You don't need to sit there and watch a number 2 if he doesn't have a press coverage defender on him. If his defensive back's 20 yards off him, then you shouldn't go directly to that number 2. You should help out with that tackles blocking. You should help out with stuff right there in that immediate area. And you could probably even see if there's press coverage on the outside guy, what's going on between their hands and everything between the receiver. So those are things that you can help with when you don't have a threat on your number 2, or even potentially, depending on the stack that they have, letting them declare. So who is eligible, who is covered? You guys, you got to know this. This goes back to the overall line of scrimmage stuff. This goes big time with who can catch a ball, right? If you've got a double tight end set and that second tight end is up in the line, he's got that guy covered. That goes back to where Kenny's saying about tapping your head, right? Tapping the hat, letting somebody know that you've got that guy covered. Lineman downfield. Please make sure this is big. It can look at times like there was a lineman 10 yards downfield when that ball is caught. But we usually get this wrong a lot of times because we don't see exactly when that pass is happening and right there where that lineman may be. These kids are totally different. I mean, I don't think I ever played against some kids that are 6'6" and that can still run a 40 under 5 seconds. All right, that's ridiculous in my opinion. But these kids are very athletic. A lot of times we're going to be wrong on that call. But no, in terms of lineman downfield, it needs to be that offside wing. They're going to have the best perspective of that. It used to be primary umpire, but now we're putting it really on the line of scrimmage person because you can see the ball when it's being thrown. And you can also see right where that offensive lineman is right when the ball is being thrown. So it's a hard, it's 3 yards, and it's sometimes a little bit grayer right there too. All right. So make that one big because Again,
definitely make it big. And I just want to add to the lineman downfield thing. You can be fooled if you have a scrambling, like a running quarterback who scrambles a lot, or he, for whatever reason, he get flushed deeper into the pocket. So he's deeper than a normal, like 3 or 5 step drop, right? He's not 8 yards back there or 10 yards. He's 20 now because he's running. He's scrambling around, and then he goes to throw the ball. He only throws a pass that goes 5 yards beyond the line of scrimmage, but it's a 30-yard pass, right? And so it looks like linemen are downfield, right? And so just be careful when you're reviewing the film. Make sure these folks, you don't ding someone for missing a lineman downfield when a quarterback's been scrambling around a little bit. So I just wanted to add that.
Yeah. So again, other big important pieces is knowing the ball's behind or beyond the line of scrimmage. That changes obviously blocking downfield, ineligibles downfield, primary line judge here on this one because you're holding the line of scrimmage. Make sure we get that one correct. We've already talked about the line judge punching and forwards and backwards, and the headline judge kind of sat out of most of that play, except for the option pitch. Rob already talked about the help with the umpire across the middle, maybe a back judge that Puckett's going to talk about on Thursday. But talk to your umpire, making sure that he knows, hey man, I need help on these plays right behind you, and just walk through with him pregame and knowing what his mechanic is, right? I know Rob's going to run to the spot and put his hand in the air if he has a catch across the middle. I know he's going to turn, pivot. He's going to swipe it out incomplete if he has that. And he's going to turn and do nothing if he has absolutely nothing. So I know from my umpire what I'm going to get at him. But from us, while we're doing that, while we're looking at our umpire, it's okay to move down towards the spot, squaring in. And then when he signals incomplete, then we go back to where we came from, all that kind of stuff. But the one across the middle, again, umpire, back judge, and 7-person mechanics, big help there.
Right. So, and then like what we want to know, okay, so after the ball's been thrown, we want to make sure they control the catch completely, right? They need to control the catch. They didn't use the ground to do it. You need evidence that there was a catch or that there was not a catch. It's all you process, right? If they catch it, you have evidence that they didn't catch it or that they did. So just make sure we're really watching to make sure they controlled the catch completely. Tight passes on the sideline, it looks really good when you straddle that sideline and then you watch those feet. It's really hard to debate it, when you are straddling, especially when like in between the sideline partners, like you got a line of scrimmage official, maybe there's a camera shot, and then there's a deep official, and you both are straddling and boxing that play in, and you're looking at the feet first, and then you look at the ball, because if their feet were out, doesn't matter how great of a catch it was, right? So let's try to make that look good. And then, be ready to rule on these tight catches. Don't let it freak you out. His feet were in, and when you looked at his hands, he had control of the ball. It's a catch. We don't do instant replay in Georgia. Don't make this stuff harder than it is, right? Straddle the sideline, his feet looked good, and by the time your eyes got up to his hands, he had control of that ball. He wasn't bobbling it. It's catch, right? So the things we just talked about on the last 2 slides, these 80-20 things with the run and the pass, and then some of those things that you think about, when you're setting up and getting ready for a play, like these are the things that make you look really good on film. I can tell you when I review film and folks start sort of falling in their scores, it's because they're not doing these basics right, which is why we're talking about perfecting the basics. And as a line of scrimmage official, getting all the things right on the line of scrimmage that you need to get right. It makes you look really good. Okay. Real quick, just on punts, we don't want you to fall asleep. Punts are not that exciting for line of scrimmage officials, but your initial position, of course, is the same as scrimmage plays. You want to watch your keys. You also want to know your eligibles. Who's eligible? Because on 4th down, we have numbering exceptions, right? That don't apply if they decide to punt on a 3rd down. You never know what's going to happen in high school football for whatever reason. Know your eligibles, 4th down numbering exception. Who can catch that pass? Who can't catch a pass? Then on the snap, we want to observe. Of course, you look at your, those folks on the end of the line of scrimmage there initially, but you really want to observe this blocking by the shield. Make sure nothing crazy happens. If there is a bad snap, the referee and the opposite wing will move and block and box the play in while the other wing will hold the line of scrimmage. I need you all communicating that before a punt happens. Right? I don't care how repetitive it gets. Hey, bad snap. Me and David, I'm going back with David, right? Watch for the fakes, watch for blocks, watch for tips. A lot of times I see umpires signaling, but it's also the wing's responsibility. We're not moving until that ball goes beyond the line of scrimmage anyway, right? So we should be signaling as well. It looks good when you had a couple of people that are signaling that that ball may have been tipped in the line of scrimmage, and we're going to ignore that. Okay? And then once the ball is live, listen, unless this punt is 70 yards, I don't think I ever moved more than 5 to 10 yards down the field after that ball goes beyond the scrimmage, beyond the line of scrimmage, right? And so I kind of moved down maybe 5 yards, 7 yards, and I'm watching for players that are carrying bricks. And you all know what that means. They're just moving in a different direction. They're moving at a different speed. They're locked in on somebody. They're peeling back, all the random things. It just looks different on film, right? They're moving differently than anyone else. But I don't move down very far also because I want to maintain a good cushion because I also have goal line responsibility. I'm getting older and these kids are staying the same age. I can't run with these dudes, right? So I'm going to maintain a good cushion just in case they decide to take it to the house, right? All right, let's have some fun with scoring kicks, David.
Yeah, real quick on scoring kicks. I know this is where the deeps make their money or whatever the referees always say. But for us in the line of scrimmage, two things that kind of grind my gears on film. Number one, let's make sure the ball's already crossed the neutral zone, either PATs or field goals. The wings need to stay in their pre-snap position till the ball's kicked and gone away. I know that even on PATs, right, as soon as the ball is kicked, the play is over, so somebody else blows their whistle. And so we want to pinch in there and help clean up dead ball fish shape. The problem with going in too early is if we have a busted play, a muff snap, and the holder gets up and runs around. Now we've kind of pinched in and we've put ourselves in a bad spot where we're retreating. We might lose some ineligible numbers and all the above. We kind of put ourselves in a bad spot. So wait for that ball to get over the neutral zone or beyond the neutral zone before we pinch in, and then we can do our thing. The other thing in a 7-person mechanics and 6, I think the same way too. Who has goal line coverage on long field goals? I'm not quite sure that's involved in our pregame enough. I've seen it a couple of times this past postseason, so I think it's worth mentioning. Inside the 20-yard line, the line of scrimmage officials have goal line responsibilities on a busted play. So we would actually work ahead of the play. The umpire and side judge would have line of scrimmage responsibilities after the snap. Outside the 20, we'll let the back judge and the field judge do their best to get to a pylon or goal line, and they'll have the goal line there. So 2 points there on scoring kicks.
All right, thank you.
All right, I'm going to keep this as short as I possibly can. Don't screw up at the goal line. All right, don't mess up mechanic near the goal line. Nobody can win if nobody has scored. All right, so make sure that you guys do not mess up. Go over your goal line mechanics with your crossfield partner, with your sideline partner before the game so you guys are on point. Communication inside that red zone should start right there at the 20, at the red zone. Every single down. Hey, your goal line, my 2, my goal, Tell him as well, if the deep guys, if he's down there and there's a first down and he's got the spot inside the 2, remind him to stop the clock. He's not used to that. He's not used to killing the clock on a first down. So make sure you're over communicating goal line situations. The goal line mechanic starts at the 7-yard line. You guys want to discuss, hey, what do we do if we have a line of game? Guys, we don't have a written mechanic for this. But I tell you what looks heads up is when we have a crew that you can tell plan for the situation of when there is a line to game. Especially now that we have crews that work 7-man mechanics with a back judge, that can allow them to hold that deep guy a little bit longer. If they choose to say to headline judge to not push the deeps back because they want the goal line covered when there's a first down at the 4-yard line, that's communication. All right. We like to see that. Those are things that help get a crew rated a little higher. When a goal line is critical, do not give it up. One of the biggest issues that we see over and over and over is that we are not cleaning up the goal line before the play. That cameraman, those cheerleaders, those alumni that are right there, tell them that's your working area. Tell them to get straight back. Don't even be in that goal line extended. If you have to go back 5 yards goal line extended, do not give up that goal line. Get yourself set up before the play. Sometimes people even like to go down a goal line and they want to make sure that they're all clear before the play ever starts. So, make sure that you're clear, that you can hold the integrity of that line there. All right. Make sure you're there before the runner It goes to read and react, right? Some plays you're going to have to move immediately. Some plays you may not to, but you better make sure they're before that runner. So it says right there about 7-yard line, stay ahead of the runner, 5-yard line, going and go straight to the goal line. So that's situations where, especially if it's a pass team, you know you got to break straight away. You're not gonna beat those kids if there's a quick slant. You didn't need to be moving immediately. All right. Passes, stay with your keys inside the red zone. All right. We don't want to be switching keys inside the red zone because it's such a confined area that you think the field judge took him inside, or then you thought you were coming outside. No, stay with your keys. All right. You got to stay with your keys inside that red zone. Check off with deeps on catch, no catch. Sideline plays. This is where you guys can look really good. Take a few extra seconds. Everybody in the stadium is waiting on your signal anyways. So let them wait a little bit. Give a little head nod. All right. And then go up together and look really pretty doing it. Close plays at the goal line. Make sure you're crashing in. All right. If you don't know where that ball is, do not come onto the field of play. Do not enter that field of play in the end zone. If you don't know where it's at, you start in the field of play. You come inside, not in the touchdown, not in the end zone. So therefore, you find it. If you find that it is in the end zone after communicating with your umpire or crossfield partner, then you can step in the end zone and you can go with it. But when you go into that field of play in the end zone, you're giving us that perspective that you believe that ball's in the end zone. And it's not going to look good to take a step out of the end zone and then give a spot at the 1-yard line. It's just not a good aesthetic thing. So communicate in the red zone. Don't mess these mechanics up. Save your partners by over communicating in these situations. Sometimes people have other stuff going on. Just make sure you're the person that reminds them every single play that this is big. All right.
All right. So last slide, and then we'll open it up for more questions. So this is the time to ask your questions here in a minute, guys. But so listen, there's some things I want you to be heads up about when we're going out, right? So the team's back is now to the goal line, right? Holding in the end zone. If you throw a flag on this, my mama better be able to tell it was a hold, right? Like my mom better be able to tell it was a hold, right? Somebody better get mugged if you throw this flag. So that goes for line of scrimmage officials and ours, because you know what this means, right? This is points for the other team. Safeties, got to get the entire ball out. Backwards passes in the end zone, be aware, right? It happens. Intentional grounding in the end zone, all these things are just tricky. And if you're positioned and you're going through your pre-snap mechanics, like, they won't surprise you. If you're thinking about the possibilities, these things won't surprise you. And it looks good on film when an official just makes a call and doesn't look like they were jittery. They didn't get happy feet. They were just cool, right? And then loose balls. Who put the ball in the end zone? Who's batting it, and in which direction are they batting? These are things you have to think about. And so I would recommend this be a part of your conversations for pregame, right? Okay.
Kenny,
so
before you go too quick, holding in the end zone, right? We've seen on film where people throw a flag. They believe that hold started or finished in the end zone, but it could have started at the 2-yard line.
That's right.
Please make sure you have an accurate flag toss here. All right. Don't give a cheap foul or cheap safety because a hold started in the 2 and then ended in the end zone. Proper flag placement is huge here.
Yep. All right. And then, okay, the mechanics. Inside the 3-yard line, both wings will retreat to the goal line and work out, right? Between the 3 and the 10-yard line, a line judge holds, right? I mean, so the headline judge is usually the officials that move. It's usually the official that moves, right? Whether it's a pass or whether we're down doing goal line mechanics coming out. So the headline judge, though, I don't want you necessarily to run back to the goal line and officiate out. I want you to read and react, right? Quarterback gets under center, raises up and throws a quick dump pass to the tight end. You don't need to be on the goal line, right? So read it and move based on the play, how the play progresses. Now, listen to this one. And I need you all communicating this. If a pass develops, that quarterback rolls right, or he rolls towards, let's say, the headline judge, right? The wing person on the opposite side of the field, I'm going to need you to sort of make sure you're at that line of scrimmage so you can see, was he beyond the line of scrimmage when he threw that pass? Were linemen downfield? So you all need to communicate back about that, especially if teams sort of like to move the pocket and you got a quarterback who has a run pass option and some of those things. So that's just something you need to be aware of. That is it in terms of the mechanics. David, you want to take us home?
Yeah, so last thing, talking about wing officials and how important they are in a crew, and look at the rubric here. And I know Greg and Rob have already talked about this in the umpire and referee breakout session. There's no change here as far as a 1 through a 5. There's no change for the different aspects. But if you look at this is 7 out of the 10 aspects that a wing official is very important piece of. And so, as far as wings on this call, as far as your training, when you're training your wings, it's reminding that, hey man, you want this crew to be a quarterfinal, a semifinal, a championship crew. The wings got to be pretty strong. And I do believe, I'll turn this back over to the rest of y'all. I do believe if we're solid on our mechanics manual, if we do follow mechanics manual, and everything presented tonight should have been almost straight from the mechanics manual or things that we have seen on film. But if you do that, and then if you actually self-evaluate and truly evaluate your mess ups and understand how to get them better, then you have a lot of success in moving into the next round or the next level that you're trying to officiate. So, here's the rubric again. No big changes for 2021.
So guys, what we'll do, we'll open it up for questions now about one more thing. Like on film, you see the umpire, you see the wing official, right? Those two guys don't look good. It does not spell good things for that crew, right? So we want to make sure we are all looking good, but you can kind of hide a deep a little bit, right? Especially if it's a running team. That umpire, those wing officials, every now and then that white hat, those are the people who are really helping to set the tone for the crew in terms of this is a good looking crew or this crew is sloppy, right? So now we're opening it up for questions. What questions do you all have for us? Don't be shy. Come off mute and ask a question if you have one. It's all good. James, do you want people to sign out?
Yes, but before they go, I just want to clear up one thing. I was talking back and forth to Tom Skinner about this sideline warning, 5-yard, 15-yard thing. If there's any, just to clear this up, anything from the sideline, if the coach is griping, assistant coach is griping, players griping at you, blah, 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 and they cross that line, it's a penalty on the sideline. It's a penalty charge to the sideline and a charge to the head coach. Now, if they get in the white when they're not supposed to be in the white, the first time is a warning. After that, it's 15 yards and it's charged to the head coach. 2 of those, between the 2, the head coach is gone. So we need to make sure that we know that and understand that. There'll be more of that in the rule changes that come out. And yes, please sign out as you leave. Sign out as your name, your association, whether you're a PEB member or you're a trainer for your association. That's all I got.
All right.
Hey, this is Dan with Dan Hurl with Columbus Association. So I think earlier on I heard the conversation where they said when we was executing the penalty, the head linesman should move at the same time as the umpire. Is that a doc doing evaluation? Can the head linesman get to where the penalty should be enforced, and later the umpire join him, and the 2 of them should be synced?
So we'd like, Dan, for 2 people to walk together. And the mechanics manual wants it to be the umpire and the head line judge, right? So you have those 2 people walking together, and then you have a line judge coming to clean it up. What we won't deem you on is, if the umpire just happens to walk with the line judge, but the head line judge cleans it up, still good, right? But I don't want to see 3 different people walking at 3 different times stuff. I don't know, David or Drew, if you all want to add anything to that.
Yeah, I have one thing about that. And no offense to veteran officials, but this is a checks and balance for a perfect reason, right? Our government has checks and balances for a perfect reason. And so it's important that we do have the headline judge and umpire walking together and the line judge hold. I don't care how long your umpire has been doing it. I don't care how much of a rule book guy he is. This is a thing that they're human, and we don't want the ball to be put on the ground more than once.
Okay, hey, acknowledge. Hey, one more thing. So I'm dialing in from a phone, so I got a phone number in the system. How can I identify myself with that phone number?
Dan, what's your last name?
Huell, Huell.
And what association?
Columbus.
And are you a trainer?
I'm a deep and wing guy.
Are you evaluating film this year at all?
I haven't been identified yet.
Okay, I'm just gonna put you in the chat so James can capture. I just did.
Yeah.
Anyone else with a question?
Right.
Make sure you sign out, everyone. And if you don't have a question and you signed out, we'll see you during the season.
I think I signed that.
Who said that? Did you say that, Willie? Was that Willie?
Yeah, that's me, Sam. I think I signed that.
You think you
That
did
was
you
Brian.
put your information in the chat? You see the
I
chat
called-
window?
Yeah, I called myself did.
Yeah,
But it-
you're good. Don't worry about it. I got you.
All right.
All right.
All right.
Kenny, Drew, y'all did a great job. Thanks for all your effort.
Thank you, Rob.
Whoa, 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 whoa.
Oh, I'm sorry. David was on there too. And David.
Hey, we hope everyone has a great season. So looking forward to seeing you all in some of these camps. Definitely chatting it up, and you'll hear a lot more from us.
Yeah, be taking the questions, guys. Bring them to us during the summertime, all right?
Absolutely. We want to make sure we're clear going into that season.